There was a promise made to football fans around the world, a specific written official promise, and FIFA just broke it on live television in front of 1 billion people. The evidence was impossible to hide. It was right there on camera in stadium after stadium from the very first days of the biggest World Cup in football history. Empty seats, row after row, section after section, visible to anyone watching at home, even as FIFA stood before the world and insisted everything was fine. But the story behind those empty seats is more disturbing than most people realize, and the longer you look at it, the worse it gets. Let's go back to where this all began. When the United States, Canada, and Mexico first submitted their joint bid to host this World Cup, they made a pledge to fans that was written into the official bid documentation. A seat at the final, they promised, would cost a maximum of $1,555. For many supporters around the world, that number felt ambitious but reachable. A once-in-a-lifetime splurge, perhaps, but a dream worth saving for. So, what actually happened? By April of this year, the cheapest standard final ticket had climbed to $5,785. The most expensive seats hit $10,990, and then they tripled. The same seats that the bid promised would cost $1,500 were quietly repriced to over $30,000 each. The football world took notice immediately, but FIFA's response to the outrage was extraordinary in its confidence. Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, told reporters he was, in his own words, very relaxed about it. He welcomed investigations. He told fans directly that they should simply chill. The revenue generated, he argued, funds football development across the world. Dynamic pricing, he insisted, simply reflects the market. But there's something important that FIFA's market argument conveniently leaves out. Football economists and academics have pointed out that FIFA operates with something no airline chain or hotel chain has ever enjoyed: zero competition. There is only one World Cup. There is no rival product. There is no alternative tournament you can attend instead. When you have a complete monopoly over the single most watched sporting event on Earth, the word market begins to lose its meaning entirely. And fans were not the only ones paying attention. Attorneys general across 4 American states, New York, New Jersey, California, and Texas, either launched formal investigations or sent letters to FIFA demanding answers. The allegations ranged from misleading fans about seat locations to deliberately manipulating pricing tiers to generate artificial scarcity. Some fans reported waiting hours on online queues with no idea of the price they would face at the end of it, only to find the seat they were assigned didn't match the stadium map they had been shown. FIFA said it had checked with the best lawyers, the best experts, and was happy to make its case. Then the tournament started, and the cameras showed the world exactly what all of that expensive confidence had produced. The very first day of competition, at Estadio Chivas in Guadalajara, Mexico, South Korea faced Czechia in a match that would produce one of the great comebacks of this burly tournament. But what struck viewers around the world wasn't the football. It was the sight of entire sections of seats sitting completely vacant, including long stretches of premium seats closest to the pitch, the most expensive locations in the entire stadium, sitting empty throughout the match. FIFA's official attendance figure claimed the ground was almost full, 44,985 fans present, they said, out of 45,664, a near sellout according to the numbers. The television pictures told a completely different story. And so, FIFA issued a statement, one that many fans found even more astonishing than the empty seats themselves. The organization explained that its attendance figures reflect tickets scanned and people within the stadium footprint, not a visual count of occupied seats. And then came the line that went viral around the world within hours. FIFA suggested that many ticketed fans had simply chosen to stand in the stadium's concourse areas rather than sit in their assigned seats during the match. The response from supporters online was immediate and blistering. FIFA stopped caring about the average fan a long time ago, one comment, shared thousands of times, read. Others pointed out the painful irony that seats worth thousands of dollars were being left empty by people who had paid for them and couldn't even be bothered to sit in them, while millions of ordinary supporters could never afford to set foot inside the stadium in the first place. And then came the detail that, for many, crystallized exactly what this tournament has become. One football supporter in Toronto described visiting a FIFA merchandise store during the World Cup and suddenly confronting a thought that stopped her in her tracks. When her child asked, "Can we go to a game?" her answer was going to be no. Not because she didn't want to go, not because she didn't love football, but because the cheapest available tickets were reaching levels that placed them beyond the reach of an ordinary family. She wrote about it online, and her words captured something that spreadsheets and attendance figures never could. "Maybe I'm wrong," she said, "but it feels like the magic of the game is being replaced by the business of the game." That single sentence became the unofficial voice of millions of fans watching this tournament from their living rooms, who had long since accepted they would never be able to afford to be inside the stadium. And just how expensive had it truly become? One analysis calculated that following the United States men's national team through the entire tournament, tickets, accommodation, travel between cities would cost two fans roughly $63,000 in total. For a single match at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, the cheapest official parking option cost $151 and required a walk of over a mile to reach the gates. Parking closer to the stadium reached $300. Some fans paid $50 at unofficial lots and still faced a 2-mile walk. This is the lived reality behind the attendance figures. But here is what makes this story even more remarkable. FIFA knew. 2 days before the tournament began, with stadiums yet to open and the opening ceremony still ahead, reports emerged that approximately 180,000 tickets remained unsold, not on secondary markets, through FIFA's own official platform. And so, quietly, in the days just before and after the tournament kicked off, FIFA took two decisions that its own public statements had never suggested would be necessary. It slashed prices across all 104 matches, and it returned 70% of the hotel rooms it had block-booked across host cities, a staggering release of inventory that tells its own story about just how far below expectations the tourist demand had fallen. There was also the matter of the so-called supporter entry tier, a $60 ticket category introduced after the backlash grew too loud to ignore. FIFA pointed to it as proof of its commitment to accessibility, but analysts noted it represented just 10% of each national association's allocation, amounting to a few hundred seats inside stadiums holding 80,000 people. It was, in the words of one ticket pricing expert, insultingly small. Compare that to UEFA's response. European football's governing body, watching these events unfold, announced that for the 2028 European Championship, it would cap prices, with nearly half of all tickets priced below £60. The contrast with FIFA's approach could hardly be more stark. Meanwhile, supporter groups from across Europe have filed formal complaints with the European Commission, arguing that FIFA's use of dynamic pricing, with no obligation to disclose prices in advance, no regulation, no competition, represents an abuse of its monopoly position that fans should never have been forced to accept. And so here we are. 10 days into the tournament that was supposed to be the greatest sporting event in history, and the question hanging over every broadcast, every aerial camera shot of those vast NFL stadiums is the same one that nobody at FIFA seems willing to answer directly. Who exactly is this World Cup for? Because the football, when it has arrived, has been magnificent. The goals, the comebacks, the drama on the pitch, all of it has been everything the sport's greatest stage promised. But football has always been powered by something that no governing body can manufacture: the roar of a full stadium, the atmosphere of 80,000 voices pressed together, the electricity that only a crowd in full voice can create. When those seats are empty, something essential disappears, not just from the broadcast, from the game itself. FIFA will tell you the numbers are solid, that the figures are verified, that the cameras are misleading, that fans are simply watching from the concourse. But somewhere in Toronto, a parent is watching on television with a child beside them, unable to afford the ticket that should have been theirs. And somewhere in a stadium built to hold 80,000 people, a row of empty seats is sitting under the lights, saying everything that FIFA's statements cannot. The greatest World Cup in history still has weeks left to play, but the story of those empty seats may echo long after the final whistle has been blown.